be buying at a premium of 20%. That is, we will wait until the government has announced the ground-up price, then we will add another 20% to that price to make the sector very competitive.
Summative further revealed that plans are at an advanced stage to secure a land that would not only serve as a seed production site, but would also serve as a training ground for farmers. Mama J, Grts.
Meanwhile, Vice President Jai Saidi has issued a televised statement on the International Day for Disaster Reduction. The day is observed globally to raise awareness of the need to reduce risk that disasters pose to efforts in creating safer communities, cities and countries. Mama J takes a closer look at this year's commemoration, which centers on the theme Women and Girls, the Invisible Force of Resilience.
The theme for this year's commemoration, Women and Girls, the Invisible Force of Resilience, seeks to acknowledge and appreciate the millions of women and girls who make their communities more resilient to disaster and climate risk. In the Gambia, celebrations marking the day will take the form of a march past and drama performances. And one of the highlights will be that the ability of women and girls to contribute is hindered by exclusion from participation and decision-making in disaster risk reduction and management processes, among others.
It is indeed high time for us to recognize that women and girls are not necessarily always just victims, like I said earlier on, but rather they live in harsh and unfavorable conditions of vulnerability to nature, particularly those that are relating to environmental hazards and climate change. Their role is that of active participants and, of course, participating for rights as agents of change, proactively contributing to the well-being, development, security, and stability of families, communities, cities, and nations. They are part of the solution rather than being part of the problem.
In a statement to mark the day, the Vice President and Minister of Women's Affairs, who is also the chairperson of the National Disaster Governing Council, believes there is a need to empower women and girls to fully contribute to some of the critical areas of environment and natural resource management if we are to ensure meaningful, sustainable development.
The United Nations Security Council, some of us may remember, has recognized through its resolution called Resolution 1983, which was of 2011, of course, the year 2011, that humanitarian crises exacerbate the risk of women to HIV/AIDS, sexual and gender-based violence, and that indeed all member states are obliged to take positive action to protect and indeed empower women and girls to prevent these situations, particularly in the context of humanitarian assistance, especially so too, including in times of conflicts.
Vice President Jai Saidi assured her office's continued commitment to prioritizing and incorporating as well as integrating disaster risk reduction with a gender perspective in advancing the cause of the Gambian leaders' vision of making the country and its people resilient to the negative impact of climate change and other human-induced hazards. Mama J, Grts.
109 junior and senior military police and signal cadres of the Gambia Armed Forces have successfully completed a 2-month training program at the Gambia Armed Forces Training School. The graduation of the Armed Forces personnel, as Ajami Sisi reports, is in line with the Chief of Defense Staff Training Directive for 2012-2013 training cycle.
It is one of those ceremonies when the men and women entrusted with the security and territorial integrity of the country celebrate enhanced institutional competence and convenience. The Gambia Armed Forces Training School has augmented the skills of 109 senior and junior military police and signals cadre of the armed forces in minor tactics, map reading and land navigation, operations room procedures, combat estimates, to name a few.
The military police and signalers have been trained in their various professional fields to enhance their professional output. Their roles and responsibilities cannot be overemphasized, since the armed force is like a tree. with the support services serving as its roots. It is the support services, the support elements that keep the infantry moving in order to achieve its mission. Distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, I inform you with pride that for the first time, in addition to their normal signals training syllabus, we have incorporated information technology training for the Gambia Armed Forces signalers.
The two-month training program, which is in line with the Chief of Defense Staff's directives, is anticipated to be a continuous exercise in order to attain the high standard of professionalism needed in the Gambia Armed Forces. Navy Captain Sambu Barrow dilated on the role of non-commissioned officers as they receive soldiers from their crude form, refine and make them suitable for officers to command them.
As NCOs, your role in the military is critical because you are referred to as the backbone of any military institution. In other words, you are the link between the command and the soldiers. I will urge you to see yourselves as a school and the rightful custodians of military norms and values that the profession holds in high esteem. Your role as NCOs are challenging and must be taken seriously.
This latest training yet again demonstrates the Gambia Armed Forces' continuous strive of professionalism for all members of the armed forces, from officers' orientation to recruitment processes. For GRTS News, I am Ajami Sise.
The 2011 Annual Activity Report and Financial Statement of the Public Utilities Regulatory Authority have been scrutinized and subsequently adopted by the National Assembly, Public Accounts and Public Enterprises Committee. PURA, during the year under review, was credited for the progress it registered in addressing consumer complaints. To amend the report, the National Roads Authority was also given a stamp of approval by lawmakers.
Unlike other institutions, PURA had their 2011 Annual Activity Report and Financial Statement easily adopted by the Park and Pay Committee of the National Assembly. The year under review stands out in terms of the progress made in addressing consumers' complaints as mandated by the institution.
PURA is very sensitive to the market and to the sectors that we regulate. And therefore, our dictum here is a supportive regulation to the operators. We are not supposed to stifle the development of the sector, but apply things that would facilitate the development of the sector in the country.
The document under scrutiny charted accurate data keeping and management of the institution's finances, with over $10 million in operating profit during the year under review.
Cash and bank balances shows a balance of 2,373,693.
PURA is substantially compliant with GPPA as it continues to consolidate its position as the country's multi-sector regulatory institution. Also free from the criticism of the external audit team, PURA was given a tap on the back by lawmakers for the job well done. Notwithstanding, lawmakers were concerned about certain issues for the feasibility of the institution.
My first observation, Honorable Chair, is on the GPPA's report about PURA contracting certain individuals and companies which are not registered. I think it's an important observation made by GPPA.
The other point I want to raise is the Gamtel 3G network. We were at one time told that it's going to be countrywide, and they were advertising on this, that this thing is going to be countrywide. And if you go to Bara here, you lose network on the Gamtel 3G network. I think PURA need to do something about that.
Regulatory body to ensure value for money. I'm speaking from what is going on right now in Banjul, because it seems that the sewage is almost dysfunctional, and these are monies that we pay. They calculate percentage of your water bill, and then you pay for sewage every month. Once the service is no more good enough, we are asking PURA to look at